Welcome to Cybersmart's Chatterbox series for parents. I'm Kelly.
I'm Cara.
And I'm Gulsum. We've all been teachers in Australian schools and are now education advisors for the Cybersmart educational program.
Cybersmart Chatterbox has been designed to help parents help their children and whole families to find out how to be cybersmart and to use the internet safely. You can join the conversation in the forum below. Well, we're the pioneers of the digital world and the first ones to navigate this new frontier. Collectively, we are the ones responsible for creating its culture and its environment, but with all its potential for improving the world we have currently, let's face it, utopia it certainly isn't.
I wonder if it was inevitable that the online world would mirror the characteristics of the physical world. Love, hate, truth and lies, etc.
And I'm sure there are numerous philosophical bloggers out there pondering this very question, and that I think is one of the internet's advantages, that any topic you're interested in can be found.
True, but there's no denying that the digital world has made content like sites promoting anorexia, racism and hate more accessible. That's not a good thing. And similarly, pornography is now accessible, anonymous and affordable for all. And for adults, this isn't generally an issue, but for accidental tourists to the internet's underbelly, it can be damaging and disturbing.
Yes, on laptops and phones, pornography is increasingly accessible and free to view for all. And we know it is shaping and influencing young people's ideas and expectations of love, sex and relationships.
With a couple of clicks, children and young people of all ages can now gain access to very explicit imagery. And for some, this exposure to online pornography occurs before any formal education on the topic, and the images fail to demonstrate the elements of a healthy sexual relationship like love and respect.
I think we are right to worry about the over-sexualisation of children in the digital age. And how do we extend sex education to include this type of information? How do we do this sensitively? And how do we do this if it's just plainly an area for discussion we find awkward and uncomfortable?
Yes, but is there an alternative, Kelly? Perhaps your children getting well-meaning advice from their not-so-informed peers?
My observations as both parent and teacher suggest that regardless of who it comes from, sex education at the moment is still too biologically based and it doesn't focus enough on navigating relationships. And tied into that, such things as gender representations and body image portrayals. I think parents need to take responsibility for this type of education, and it just can't be presumed that school curriculum will cover it.
Exposure to online pornography for children is a child protection issue that we need to take seriously. Parents need easy access to parental controls and resources to help them broach the subject with their children, as it's really important to keep the channels of communication open. This is the time to explain that this is adult content and not realistic or educational.
The viewing of inappropriate content without the proper understanding can create insecurity, self-esteem issues, shame, anxiety, fear, and increases stress and pressure for both girls and boys. And the consequences of sexting and the motivation for doing it should also factor into these conversations.
I think it's important to approach this topic and conversation in a relaxed way and not to shame kids or freak out too much when they access something that you feel is inappropriate. Finding opportunities to explain what pornography is and why it's not for kids to be watching and being open to asking questions about it will help dissolve the mystery around adult material and mean they'll know what they're talking about and can hold their own when it comes up in conversation with their friends.
And depending on the age, online filters and enabling safe search modes can be very useful in this area, and something as a family should definitely be discussed and considered.
And let's face it, the credible sites can be a great place for young people to safely have their questions answered and also minimise their embarrassment.
But there will be times, and we know this, when young people deliberately go to adult sites, and they can be driven by curiosity, uncertainty, or a quest for knowledge.
Hormones.
Oh, it's true.
That's true.
But sadly, there will be times when the world of adult sex is brought to them. And so children need to be told clearly that there may be times when they don't feel safe while using the internet. They could find content that makes them feel uncomfortable, or someone may try to contact them via pop-ups or messages. We need to reassure them that this is not their fault, and there are strategies for dealing with this situation, and they are similar to dealing with real-life examples of feeling unsafe.
Yes, some quick ways to deal with coming across confronting content include closing the window, clicking on the back button, clicking on the home button if the web page was a safe page, or shutting down the computer.
And there are instances where inappropriate contact is made by an adult to a minor. And it's extremely important that the firm steps are taken to minimise this sort of impact and to end the situation as quickly as possible. Online grooming is when an adult forms a relationship with a child or younger person with the intent of later having sexual contact or committing other crimes. But the question is, how do we identify and deal with what is essentially online grooming or predatory behaviour?
And being aware that this can take place in chat rooms, on instant messaging, in gaming sites, and on social networking sites and email.
As a first measure, all parents should download the Cyber Safety Help button, which is a shortcut to help and advice for young people and families on a range of cyber safety issues. But significantly, it provides a direct reporting mechanism if they receive unwanted contact or see content that is upsetting. The online reporting form links directly to the Australian Federal Police, who work in partnership with internet service providers in the battle against the sexual exploitation of children online. It's a very simple yet significant mechanism. Suspicious behaviour can also be reported to your local police or to Crime Stoppers by phoning 1800 333 000.
Awareness in this area is paramount. Any child who is accessing the internet, whether it's on a family computer or a handheld device, needs to understand that caution should be taken when interacting with others online. And this isn't limited to the random they may come into contact with in a gaming site, but can just as easily be the people they have friended within their social media sites, who they only know very loosely or through someone else.
Yes, the term friend these days is all a bit too loosely applied, isn't it? Your soccer coach's neighbour's son, although distantly connected to you, does not immediately deserve uninhibited trust.
When it comes to random contacts and strangers, caution definitely needs to be exercised. Some advances can be quite obvious, but often an online predator will work more subtly in gaining trust by using flattery and isolating the child from their support networks by making the child feel as though they are the only person that understands them. These tactics, used to build relationships with young people, can be much harder for those young people to read and interpret.
Grooming techniques might include making the young person feel grown up and respected, suggesting that they can get the young person a job in modelling or acting, telling that young person that they're in love with them, or providing virtual or real gifts to that young person.
And then, as the relationship progresses, they may use more forceful coercion to encourage the young person to provide images or to meet in person or to communicate using a webcam.
You can see how these tactics may work given the vulnerabilities and insecurities that many kids have during their adolescent years, and the ways to deal with unwanted contact seem obvious, but only when that young person has been able to read the strategies that are being used on them.
And I think young people need to know the ways to deal with unwanted contact. So some of the things might be, tell the person you feel uncomfortable and would like them to stop in the first instance. Save the person's details and the messages they sent, because evidence is really important. Block and report them, and maybe you have to change your contact details.
This was a difficult topic to discuss, but arguably one of the more significant when it comes to online safety. Thank you for tuning in. For more information on inappropriate contact and content, please visit our website on www.cybersmart.gov.au.
3 logos appear: the Australian Government crest and the words Australian Government, the ACMA Australian Communications and Media Authority, and Cybersmart. The end.